Joining me in studio is Joseph Kwenka. He's a former Deputy Attorney General of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Murtala Mohammed is a Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. And also Dr. Smart Sapong will be joining us. He's a political researcher and a lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University. Martin Pebu is the lead convener of this Kumi Preko Reloaded. He will be joining us as well. I am Alfred Okansi, and you can join us on the WhatsApp number 055-369-8759. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome.
Good morning, Alfred.
Great. Now, the president, after a long period of silence, which the Ghanaian people had been calling for, in fact, the market was calling for a statement from the president to let us get to know the details of IMF engagements, to quell the uncertainty and the speculation, spoke on Sunday, outlined 12 measures that in the next 6 months, his government intends to use to address the situation, including sourcing cheaper fuel, which industry players have come out to react to, and then also that statement that there's not going to be any haircut, which economists have raised questions about the gaps in that information and how that would impact on the market, and then issues related to the increased prices of foodstuff on the market, which he blames partly market women who he says their leadership came to tell him some of them are profiteering. But on the whole, they did make a significant impact, as many were expecting, at least the president to make a statement at a time like this to send the right signals to the people. I'll start off with you, Honorable Murtala Mohammed.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning. Good morning to my former floor mate. And good morning to your cherished viewers. But only to state that I don't own 3 Land Cruisers. No. And a serious journalist who takes his work serious and will do some reading and research would have known that I wasn't in the 7th Parliament. I think even those who are in journalism school who are doing their internship with you would have indicated that Murtala wasn't in the 7th Parliament. And in any case, the Land Cruiser or the vehicles I use in Parliament are loans, which I'm still paying. He took that. Honorable Chairman Sabonsu, the majority leader, I believe that should have his 5th vehicles now, which is paying in loan.
No, but is it compulsory that you take a loan when...
Yes, it's a choice. You can decide not to take it or you take it.
So the cars are 100% financed by you?
Yes, you pay. You pay it. In fact, as a matter of fact, they've started even deducting from our salary. My good friend went on his program, and I think that he is the board chair for the Ghana Airport Company, Paul Adumochiri. The Ghana Airport Company, if he has a vehicle, that one is not a loan. When he was given the opportunity, within 3 months, he outrageously used our taxes, including mine, to rent a Christmas tree at 100,000 Ghana cedis. That is the difference. I think that if he can accuse me for anything, he can accuse me for corruption. And that is a fact. And I have demonstrated this. And my brother is here as a student leader. Even in the student leadership, I stood against corruption. And he can ask my good friend, Honorable John Kuma, when we set up a committee to investigate corruption, I was the one chosen by the entire student body and the SRC to investigate him. So I think that he should be a bit professional, to be very honest with you, that he accused people of not reading, yet he doesn't even read. He doesn't do simple research. And he comes on that program to throw such tantrums. I think that I would help him if he needs the help. And I think that we all need to help him. That's just the record I want to state. I don't own 3 Land Cruisers. I wasn't in the 7th Parliament. The vehicle I use is the vehicles given to me in the 6th and the 8th Parliament were all loans. I have the choice not to take it, but I decided to do which I pay. When I was given the opportunity to work as NYP Deputy Coordinator for 4 years, I worked without any tag. Manasseh Azuri, if you take his book on corruption, singled me out for praises for my anti-corruption position. And here, 4 years as a Deputy Minister for State, I served diligently. When he was given the opportunity, 3 months, he outrageously used my taxes, our taxes, to rent a Christmas tree at 100,000 Ghana cedis. That is the difference. Now let's look at the issues we are looking at and not dwell so much on such trivialities, it is important for us to understand that every country will go through challenges. Every society will go through challenges at one point or the other. So it is understandable when a country is going through challenges. It is also significant to state that Ghana is not and has not been the only country hit by COVID and its effects. We are not the only country that is affected by the global challenges, i.e. the problems or the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. It is also significant to state that every government under the Fourth Republic encountered global economic challenges. President Rawlings, we all saw what happened. There were a lot of economic meltdown globally. We had a lot of challenges that we faced as a state, which were as a result of the international market, plummeting. So President Rawlings experiencing, President Kufuor, you remember under him we had, crude prices going very high, up to $140 per barrel. And that was the first time we had crude prices, increasing to that level. We had global challenges that affected the economy at the time. President Mills and President Mahama, we faced same. We had, community market plummeting. We had a lot of challenges. And we had even energy crisis. But you see, Alfred, it is important to state that under the Fourth Republic, every single government under the Fourth Republic faced doomsday. The only government that is not facing doomsday is this government. And it is as a result of the policy intervention of the President Mohammed's administration not to do the knee-jerk response to the doomsday challenges. Even under the risk of the government becoming unpopular, President Mahama insisted that we needed to find a lasting solution to it. And that is why we now have even more than the energy capacity that we need. I remember I filed a question on the floor of Parliament to ask the Minister for Finance, because the argument that had been made was that we went into the investment in the energy sector that we didn't need. And you remember I filed the question, and I wanted the Minister for Finance to tell us how much we have made as a state as a result of selling our energy to our neighbors since 2017. And on the floor of Parliament, he stated that we're making $140 million a year. So it wasn't a useless investment. So to put it in that context, every government under the Fourth Republic went through some economic challenges. And none of this government, from President Kufuor, President Rawlings, President Mills, President Mahama, none of them, attributed all the internal domestic problems to just the international, global market challenges that they all face. None of them attributed that to them. Of course, they acknowledge that because of those, global or international, challenges, it has some bearing on our economy and our domestic progress. It is only this government who wants to attribute every problem we face to COVID and to Ukraine conflict. And I'll come to those issues in a jiffy. Now, what people expect a president to do in times like this is to be honest, sincere, and demonstrate some level of candor. Unfortunately,
you didn't find any of that?
Unfortunately, and I'll provide evidences why I think that the president was not only being disingenuous, he was being outrightly dishonest to the people of this country.
Why do you say this?
And I'll come to that. The president, in his statement, people were expecting him first and foremost to apologize to Ghana, because that is what honest presidents do. That yes, we have these challenges, and I apologize that some of these challenges are, but these are the steps we are taking to address those problems we are faced. The president didn't do that, and that was expected, from some of us. What the president did was that he presented figures that were deceptive. He said that our inflation is not that bad anyway, because between 2019 till date, that Togo had their inflation increasing by 16 folds, and that Ivory Coast had theirs increasing by 7 folds, that Senegal had theirs increasing by 11 folds, and Ghana is just 5 folds. So for a layman listening to the president will conclude that after all, we are doing better than Togo, Ivory Coast, Senegal, Nigeria when it comes to what? Inflation. Because that was the message the president wanted to put across. That, when we are talking, we are doing well, trying to defend the minister who is being berated by his own members of parliament. He says that we are doing better because ours increased just by 5 folds between 2019 till date. Togo increased by this, Ivory Coast increased by this, Senegal. It is important for us to understand one thing. Togo may increase by 16 folds, but cumulatively, ours can increase by 1 fold and it will be higher than that of Togo. For example, if there is an increase in inflation in Togo, maybe 0.0001%, and the next 2 months it increased by 0.0001%. The next 3 months it increased by 0.1%. So if you add all, you realize, and maybe all will not be up to 3% percentage increase in inflation. And you can have in Ghana, which will increase, let's say, 5% just once. So you may have just one increase in inflation. Some will have 16 folds, yet your inflation will be higher. And to prove that, currently, Nigeria inflation is 20.77%. Nigeria's inflation. Togo inflation is 7.9%. Ivory Coast inflation is 6.3%. Senegal is 11.9%, and Ghana is 37.4%. And even that 37.4% was the last inflationary count that we had. And from that time, we've all seen how prices are galloping. So it is the estimation of many aspects that as we sit today, inflation should be hovering around 50 or even over 50%. So that was the disingenuous aspects of the president's statement. Now it comes to unemployment. The president also touted this government what they have done. They've created a lot of jobs. They do know that we have challenges. Yet we have the highest as compared to some of our neighbors. We are all hit by COVID. We are all hit by Ukraine-Russia war. Why is it that Nigeria unemployment is 9.7%? Togo is 3.94%. Ivory Coast is 3.47%. Senegal is 3.62%, and Ghana is 17.4%. The source is also from the Statistical Service in the last census. And in fact, if you take the 2022 financial statement, the Minister for Finance and this government stated that youth unemployment is 12.6. That is outrageous, the highest ever. 12.6, at least in this fourth republic. Now, let's look at how he also touted himself, that they did extremely well when it comes to managing COVID. The president stated that in the speech he delivered. Because WHO praised Ghana. As a matter of fact, when I checked, WHO praised Togo too. They praised Senegal. They praised Nigeria. They praised all these our neighbors. Now, what will be the best way of assessing how you manage COVID very well than looking at the number of lives that were lost? Because there can't be any better way of managing COVID than preventing people from losing their lives. Is that not the case, Alfred? So if you want to tout yourself as I have managed COVID very well, then for me the best way is to look at fewer people died in Ghana as a result of COVID.
Well, that's why he made that statement that he knows how to bring back the economy, but not how to bring back lives.
Fred, that statement was also another deception.
Why?
And I've heard a lot of MPP communicators, and I'll be surprised if my brother Kwenka would also go on that same tangent. Let me give you the figures. In Nigeria, as at October, 3,155 people died as a result of COVID. In Ghana, 1,456 people died as a result of COVID. Togo, 275 people died as a result of COVID. Now, if you look at it per the numbers, more people died in Nigeria than in Ghana. Is that not the case? Because 3,155 in Ghana, 1,400. I mean, but it would be unfair if you don't juxtapose that with the population of Nigeria. So it would be appropriate you work out the percentage. Nigeria is estimated to have a population over 250 million. But I want to be charitable. I use 230 million to calculate the percentage, this number in terms of the percentage. 230. Nigeria population is estimated to be around 250 million. Even with 230 million, if you work out the percentage, it will give you 0.001%. 0.001%.
Obviously, I mean, you're looking at a larger denominator.
Come and look at Nigeria, Ghana. 1,456 people against 32 million people. If you calculate, you get 0.005%.
Well, obviously.
Come and look at Togo.
You're going to have a bigger margin of percentage difference.
I'll come to it. So it means
because of the denominator is bigger. I mean, as Nigeria's population, you acknowledge 230 million, as against 32 million.
Alfred, if you do the division, that's the point I'm making. Yes. I'm looking at, if you look at the raw figures, more people died in Nigeria than in Ghana. Mm-hmm. But that won't be fair if you want to do proper analysis. Indeed. You need to look at what percentage of Nigerians lost their lives as a result of COVID. So if you do that calculation, it gives you 0.001%. Now, calculate that of Ghana, 1,456 against 32 million. The percentage you give is 0.005%. Now come to Togo, 275. If you do it against even 8 million, it will give you 0.003%. So it means that more people died in Ghana than they died in Togo, than they died in Nigeria. So why is it that communicators of this government, including the president, will go to town saying that we manage COVID better than our neighbors? Well, I mean, and it is important also to understand that with all these challenges facing all of us, none of these our neighbors, none of them, went to the IMF to borrow $3 billion in the name of COVID. None of them. None of them got about $906 million from the World Bank. None of them got hundreds of millions of dollars from the European Union. None of them dipped their hands into all manner of funds set up by their previous administration. All the funds President Mahama established, they dipped their hands into it. But you see, Senegal even paid rents for their citizens. But let me conclude on this. The unfairness of this government and the way they treat the people of this country in the name of COVID is legendary. Why would you tell us that, yes, you borrowed all this money to cushion us because of the effects of COVID? Then you gave some free water and free electricity to particular consumers. Mind you, not everybody in Ghana benefited from the free electricity. Because the point is that me, including you and I believe my brother, were never beneficiaries, depending on the consumption of energy. Now, the water, you can say that everybody did. Now, we are all now being made to pay for that water and the electricity. We are all being made to pay for it.
With the COVID
With the COVID funds. I filed a question on the floor of Parliament demanding this Minister for Finance to come and explain to the people of Tamale Central and the people of Ghana, because I filed a question for and on behalf of my constituents, to come and explain to them how much they spent in the provision of the free water and the free electricity, and how much they have generated so far in the name of COVID levy. Assuming they spend 5 million in providing water and electricity, and they have collected over 10 billion, wouldn't that amount to extorting the people of this country? Because you impose that tax regime for the purposes of taking care of something you did. Yet, this minister refused to appear before we went on recess, demanding that I file the question again. He's unwilling to come to answer those questions. So this government should be truthful. Look, we all agree that yes, COVID would have an effect. Yes, Ukraine, Russia would have an effect. But to blame the economic challenges entirely on them, for me, it is not fair. But to conclude, just 30 seconds, the communication of the president. I think that when he made the statement on Russia, Ukraine, it lacked diplomatic finesse. I didn't expect the president, because he had been a minister of foreign affairs before. Ukraine and Russia, it is our prayer and hope that this conflict ends. Lives are being lost needlessly. But for you to say that Russia unprovoked invasion, Russia may be unhappy. And mind you, the trade relations between Ghana and Russia, as of last year, was $140 million. So I'm not saying that many countries in Africa are very careful, even in Europe, how they get themselves involved in it. So for him to make such statement, I was shaking my head and wondering who wrote this speech for this president.
Okay.
Or he made that speech just out of something. And I think that such pronouncements themselves indeed help to aggravate some of the problems that are facing the people of this country.
Honorable Mutala, thank you. Honorable Joseph Menka, so this is the verdict of not just the Honorable Mutala Mohammed, but a number of people who also describe the president's speech as uninspiring and didn't make the right impact. But from where you sat and the days after the president's speech, the kind of reactions that you have seen, did it get the right impact or make the right impact, and then also address the issues that the Ghanaian people are faced with and the uncertainty on the market, which generated a lot of panic withdrawals, reactions from investors who did not know exactly the direction of government at this particular point?
Thank you very much, Alfred. And good morning to your good self. Good morning to my brother, Mutala. Good morning to your cherished viewers. Good morning to the good people of Timpani constituency in the Upper East region. Now, I have heard and listened quietly to my brother, and I want to start, Alfred, by stating that suddenly, not only my brother, but I have realized that communicators from the other side of the political divide, the National Democratic Congress, some of them who used to stagger a lot and who used to have a lot of commerce and who used to have a lot of stagnation in their speeches, are now flowing, in fact, freely flowing in town because of economic circumstances in the country. But you see, there is one most unfortunate thing I want to put on the table for us to look at it and reflect as a people. What it is that His Excellency the President addressed the nation, and he outlined the 12 points that he is going to look at critically in his effort to ensure that our nation, Ghana, gets back to its toes and takes off to the land of glory. That is what His Excellency the President said. So I expected that at least if you are running commentary, you do a critical appraisal and analysis of the 12 points and do show an appreciation of some of the good things that are actually in it.
I'm going to be honest. It's something,
to
the initial, this is the
Yes,
initial
no,
comment.
just a
We'll
moment.
run through the 12.
No,
but
I know.
Yes, but
I'm saying
just to
that
let
if
know.
you are running commentary on the matter, you look critically at the 12 points, you mention them one after the other, and you are saying that we are going to come and look at that. And then you play them against the backdrop of the circumstances of today and the circumstances of yesterday, and find out whether or not they are inspiring enough to take us out of the economic doldrums and problems that we find ourselves in. That is what you ought to do, and situate it within a certain context so that you don't get yourself missing the point and then firing off target and just going into town to say anything and everything without regard to the circumstances of the times. But Alfred, as he indicated, the question that we should ask ourselves fundamentally is, even looking at the figures he churned out about Nigeria, Cote d'Ivoire, and Togo and other countries that are sharing boundaries with that, and etc., there is a clear admission that all of them are facing economic challenges and problems. There's a clear admission. What he perhaps stated in his delivery is the difference in the enormity in each of the countries. But there is a clear admission that in all the countries that surround us, and in fact, there is no debate unless one wants to create a heaven that he wants to continue to live in it perpetually in self-deception. There is a clear admission that across the globe, we have crises. And let me tell you this, in my preliminary comments on this matter. His Excellency the President made one categorical statement that my brother did not actually refer to in his preliminary comments. He admitted that there is crisis in Ghana, did he not? The president did admit that we have economic crisis.
With one of the reactions I got, said, why did they have to take him so long to realize that the crisis which we're faced with, it didn't have to take up until Sunday, just last week. We, the Ghanaian people, have been facing and experiencing this crisis.
Alfred, unfortunately,
for the past, God knows how long.
Unfortunately, you get that wrong, because in all the previous speeches of the president before the Sunday's address, there had not been an occasion that the president hadn't admitted that the economy is facing challenges. There hadn't been any occasion. In fact, on all occasions that he's had to address us at even fora, festivals, etc., any opportunity, even when he's touring the country, he makes it very categorically clear that the country's economy is going through some challenges.
Indeed.
There is no debate about that.
Indeed.
In fact, the impression should not be erroneously created, churned out, and fed to the public that it was only on Sunday that the president admitted that there was crisis in Ghana. That is palpable falsehood. In fact, earlier, he had made several admissions. In fact, he had, at different, as I indicated to you, he toured various regions, and there was no opportunity that he didn't seize to state that the economy was going through turbulent times.
I
he
think
stated that it wasn't only on Sunday.
It's
and
one
we should
thing
put that
saying
in
that the
perspective.
economy is facing challenges, and another thing actually admitting that there's actually a crisis. That's the point I just wanted to establish.
Yes, of course,
You know?
but it is the challenges that will lead you to the crisis. That's the point. It is the challenges that you admit that eventually become the crisis that you handle and try to manage and navigate out of it. That's the point that I want to state. It started as economic challenges that government faced because indicators were being distorted as a result of some global circumstances and some few internal factors. And as a result of that, it blossomed into crisis, which the president eventually on Sunday stated without equivocation. So there is no doubt that at the top, right at the apex, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana made concessions and admission that the economy is going through challenges. In fact, I have not heard the president say that our taps are flowing with milk and honey and that everything is rosy in Ghana. I haven't heard that. If you do have any such video, we can have it played for our people. So in addressing the issues that led to His Excellency the President actually addressing the nation, we should be as practically objective as far as possible in looking at it in a holistic manner, because you see, if we don't take care, we are going to continue to hammer certain points and create market distortions, and then the price increases will continue to be taken advantage of by traders, and all of us will be in it together. In fact, I buy fuel, you do buy, he buys. Maybe he's privileged to be a member of parliament. He has fuel.
No, but you know that members of parliament don't get fuel coupons.
They don't get fuel coupons, but you get some allowances.
Which allowances?
That can cushion you.
That's when you do your work.
You know? So, I mean, he knows what I'm talking about. I say when
you do work, and there are no work.
So, myself and you shouldn't sympathize with the Honorable Mutala at all, because we are in the same boat. But the point I am making is this. You see, as a country, what we are supposed to be doing is to reflect on our past, reflect on the present, and then chart a very good path in the future to rebuild our economy to become the buoyant one that we want it to be as it started in the past. I have stated this at other fora, and I want to reiterate it today, that in the 4 years that passed, we did not experience this, the first 4 years of His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. And so Ghanaians went to the polls on the 7th of December 2020 and renewed the mandate of His Excellency the President of the Republic of Ghana to continue to govern. And then they entrusted the economy in his hands because they appreciated the 4 years governance that he actually gave us as a people. And that was the reason why they gave him another 4 years. And when we came to the second term, and indeed, I will want to get one person in this country who in the first 4 years called for any minister's head or resignation on the basis of management of the economy in the first 4 years. It never happened. Why? Because there was a level of appreciation by Ghanaians as to the way the country was being governed within the first 4 years. Now you come into the second 4 years, and then certain circumstances not anticipated by any person on the planet strike us. And as a result of those ones that were of a global nature, we had to face these problems, and it distorted our economic plans and created so much crisis within the realm that we've had to take certain actions to remedy the situation. For example, you find that, as I indicated, take out Russia-Ukraine, which people say we shouldn't mention at all. Take out the pandemic, and we would get back to the pre-COVID and the pre-Russia-Ukraine, and then compare the indicators at the time as against the indicators today, and you realize that there's a world of difference. So it will be an act of pretense to sit on the fence and say that Russia, Ukraine, and COVID-19 have not ravaged our economy and have no impact at all, and that all the crises we have in our economy are basically as a result of self-inflicted policies internally.
So you're saying that the president's speech for you was inspiring, it addressed the issues squarely and ticked all the boxes for you. That's what you're saying.
Let me make this indication to you. You see, His Excellency the President is the helm of affairs. He's supposed to act in a manner that will bring happiness to the people, the majority of the people. You may not be able to please everybody anyway, but he's supposed to act in a manner. And he says that by the 12 points that I've outlined, going by them critically, and I know I'm staying away from looking at them critically for now because we will be getting into that, isn't it? But I mean, we are doing our preliminary comments on the matter. So what I'm saying is that essentially the president, we ought to give him all our support, and for him to be able to carry out the 12 points that he indicated. And remember that he still has more than 2 years to govern the country, and he can turn everything around within a year or more, depending on the circumstances ahead of us. Okay. So it is not good for us to sit down and create the impression that we are at a point of apocalypse and that there is no return. When we do that, we continue to cause distortions, we continue to empower people to take undue advantage and then churn out to us prices of basic commodities and products in manners that are unimaginable.
Okay. So just to point out, thank you. But you see, what we're going to be doing is to address this conversation from the realities that the Ghanaian people face on a daily basis, right? As against what the president said. Okay, so if you have the realities being pointed out, it is not about the Ghanaian people being sensational or creating market distortions. I think that as we go on, we will speak to the realities that the people are faced with so that that would be quite clear. But Dr. Smart Sapong is a political scientist. He's also joining us on Zoom. We're going to run through the 12 points that the president talked about as we go on. But Dr. Smart Sapong, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Key Point. First off, so you've monitored the reactions of after the president's speech as well. Those who hold the view that it lacked inspiration and there was no admonition of the fact that there was some failure, and so he had to apologize. It did not stick with the Ghanaian people. A lot of the takeaways were what the president was expected to say that he did not say. But from where you sit, did it make any significant impact as per the situation that the Ghanaian people face right now?
Well, thank you so much, and very good morning to the panel in studio and all other very good citizens of this republic watching us this morning. After the president addressed us, to many of us, it was long overdue, because agreed, the global economy is going through some challenges. There is also no doubt that COVID and Russia-Ukraine will have some level of impact on the globe and all the reasons that usually we hear. But that notwithstanding, if you're a leader, in my view, you still would have to take some responsibility. It is not enough to say that someone is burning Thai nearby, smoke is entering your room, you have perhaps children with asthmatic conditions and things that do not permit smoke. Yes, you didn't cause the smoke, you are not the one burning the ties, it is being done by somebody elsewhere, but the smoke is entering your room. Your children may suffocate or they are suffocated. You still have to do something about it. So I felt that responsibility should have been taken way, way early. And I still get the feeling that, some level of responsibility, but not like full responsibility. We still think that the global space is crunched. And that is the truth. We still think that Russia, Ukraine, COVID, blah, blah, blah. But in-house, we should get to the level of taking some complete responsibility of the case. Look at what UK is doing. They are also going through crisis. Everyone is going through crisis, but they keep making changes that they pray could get them the results they want. To the extent that they change prime minister, to the extent that they change the chancellor, to the extent that you see all the time they are trying other options to see whether they can meet the global crisis head on. Where I lost touch with the president in his presentation was that bit. Yeah, he appreciated the challenge. He narrated some 12 points he thinks himself and his government would use to address the matter. Where we lost out was the strategic changes in the team that would have inspired some additional hope into the people. So yes, he did address us. We hope that he'll be addressing us a lot more times, and the things that were lost from his recent speech will be contained in the next speech that he'll be coming to give to us. But I'm resting on the point that he, at this point, has taken some level of responsibility, but very quick on the part of his team, the government and the managers of current economy, very quick to move to the other reasons that are global. When we continue on that path, we will lose the fact that we can do something about it, and we would not work extremely hard, extra hard, like anybody left with no option would have done to get the matter addressed. So yes, he did well, some level of responsibility, but I think we should get to the level where the people in whom we have entrusted this republic to will take full responsibility. The mere fact that you didn't cause the crisis does not mean you should also sit and watch the crisis overwhelm your people. We are getting to the point where everyone is getting overwhelmed. I don't know for you and my friend the MP and other people will not feel the way we are feeling, but sincerely speaking, we must get to the point where the president and his team will take complete responsibility and help save the situation. We are getting overwhelmed, seriously.
I see. Now, getting through to these 12 points that the president talked about, and I'm going to have that on the screen right now, so that our viewers would also follow every step of the way. These 12 points that the president talked about, and the reactions that have greeted it. And gentlemen, you see, Mr. Joseph Quinca, you make the point about, for instance, over the last, at least the first term of the president, not many people were talking about some persons being changed. You heard Dr. Asman Sapon talk about some of the changes that could have been made to send the right signals. I mean, every time we've had a reshuffle, it hasn't always been within a crisis period. Reshuffles are not instigated by crisis alone. We've had instances in our democracy and not too distant past that
sometimes
different
governments being too comfortable on their seats and all that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So does it surprise you as well that for this the president doesn't see it or deem it fit to consider the calls for a reshuffle, or some people taking a bow so others can also continue the race?
Well, Alfred, thank you very much once again. You see, let me make my comment direct answer to you by saying that, you see, when you have a football team, you have a coach who manages the team, you have his assistant, and together they manage the team. So when they realize that there's a problem at the lateral defense, the coach and the technical team will suggest that they should bring on somebody from the bench, okay, to come and fill in that lacuna and be able to engender the team to move on. That's what happens when you are coaching a football team. So the president is like a coach. And at every point in time, he appraises himself with, the circumstances of the times, and he looks at all the figures around him, his appointees, and etc. And the sole responsibility or duty is on him to decide whether or not at this particular moment, I want this person out and this person in. That is his sole prerogative constitutionally. And so we, as a citizen, or as citizens, we can decide that at this point in time, we do not like Mr. A, we do not like Mr. B.
Based on the outcomes of the person's leadership and performance.
Based on the outcomes of the person's leadership or performance within his jurisdiction or area of specialty, or what has been entrusted in that person's care and control. But again, as I said, we may make that assessment sitting from the fence or outside as Ghanaians, as people who voted, and etc. But we give a mandate to somebody to do that on our behalf. And he tells us that, look, I think that even though you are making a cry for me to move A or B, or to do C, D, E, F, G, H, I think that at this particular moment, it is not prudent to do so. So let us give ourselves some time. If there is need, I will so act. He is the coach. I will not be able to read into his mind why he should not accept what the people are saying. I will not be able to do that. So he's the coach, and he knows at every point in time what is good for us. That is why there was something that happened last week, and I don't know whether I will be coming to that. You remember that when the majority MPs held the press conference and made the very categorical statements that they wanted the finance minister out and etc. We had a reaction from the presidency, and he gave indication that we will accede to. But conditions precedent will be triggered so that we'll get to that place. So he gave,
Well,
he eventually caved
I
in.
spoke to Kojo
but with
Oppong Nkrumah,
caveats.
but he gave me a different impression that the
From
president
what
did not
I
necessarily
read,
say that he was going to agree to the demands of the
Yes,
MPs, which
yes.
Osechi Mensah also says now it is the majority caucus's position now, all of them,
It's not even there.
that the finance minister should go.
And what I'm saying is that
Oppong
what
Nkrumah says
I
the president did not agree that after an IMF program, he's going to sack the finance minister.
In
That
all
was clear.
honesty, I heard what the majority leader said. And I also heard some of the MPs who were leading the charge from the majority side say that His Excellency the President had given a roadmap. I heard that. And I don't know whether you didn't. They stated quite categorically that one of the circumstances that we had to wait to see it fruition was, one, the budget. That the budget of 2023 had to be delivered and passed. Then the Appropriation Act is passed by Parliament. That's one of the conditions precedent. The second one is the IMF negotiations, that it will be concluded sometime this year. And that when these conditions precedent are met, then at that particular moment, the finance minister could then step aside. But I also had a personal view on that one. And I have stated it at other platforms, and I want to reiterate it here, that if we get to that point and things begin to turn for the better, will we then be calling for the removal of the finance minister? So that is a futuristic thing that we are waiting to see when we get to the point. Because if after the IMF negotiations and after the careful implementation of some policies outlined by the president, and then the budget is read, and it brings some relief and comfort, and fortunes begin to change, we will be crying for changes at the economic management level. That is the very important point that we should be looking at.
Well,
because it cannot be the case that after the implementation of these conditions precedent, which have been mentioned by His Excellency the President, things begin to change for the better. Then you suddenly say that, yes, in spite of the fact that things have changed for the better, still allow Mr. A or Mr. B to go. So for me, all that will not be clear until we have reached that point where we've finished dealing with the IMF and we've come to a deal, and then the budget has been implemented, and then Ghanaians begin to assess the economy at the time. Okay. Then we will be able to determine whether or not the cry for the removal of persons from government and changes will actually be necessary at all. At that particular
let me put on record. The videos you are seeing are live videos of what's happening at the Komipeko Reloaded demonstration convergence point. That's what's happening, what you're seeing there. So stay with us every step of the way. We'll bring you live updates, and we'll be crossing over as well intermittently as we go on in the conversation to find out what's happening on the ground. But, well, you say that, I mean, this is the president's position, that until an IMF program is achieved and then budget read, we will see what happens to the finance minister's fate. But the minority in parliament has started a procedure already, a motion to censure, and which they will need some 46 NPP MPs to at least assist them in that regard. Honorable Mutala.
Alfred, I get the sense that all the MPP communicators have gone through some theological lessons.
Why do you say so?
Listen to them, they've all become preachers. They preach, telling us that, preaching, you preach with some soft voice and, using emotions and God. Observe all of them. Those, when we come on your morning shows, they've all gone through theological lessons, and maybe perhaps at different stages of those lessons. But let me also say, since he's using football analogy, let's all get into that. You have a football team, you are playing a football match. Inshallah, tomorrow Arsenal will beat Chelsea.
Okay. No,
so assuming
we'll
that in a football match, that Arsenal is up by 2 goals, and the Chelsea defender, the central defender, is leaking. Then he said, leave him. Things may get better. You are about 75 minutes of the 90 minutes. So you leave him. Things will get better. Up to 80 minutes, he said, leave him. 3rd goal has come. 85 minutes, 4th goal has come. And he said, leave him. He's saying that, what if things get better? Would we be calling for the removal of the Minister for Finance or not? Honorable Penka, the difference between this our president and the precedent in our neighboring countries is that when people raise concerns, they don't insult their citizens. The president went to Tamale and said that those who were calling for the Minister for Finance to go were NDC people on Radio North Star. As a matter of fact, he also said that those who were calling for reshuffle, that they are unemployed and they need jobs. The reason why every government reshuffles, reshuffling doesn't mean you sack ministers. One, the first point he made, deny your appointees from being comfortable. Because when people are comfortable at their workplaces, they tend to be corrupt. That is why when you have an organization or even the public sector, someone goes to work every day. Everybody will say, the guy is so dedicated, he comes to work every day. It's possible that he doesn't want to miss work so that people will identify his corrupt acts. So he must go to work every day to ensure that he's always shielded. Two, when you also reshuffle, you are putting your appointees on their toes so that they will want to work to the best of their ability and capabilities for the good of you as a president and to achieve the vision for which you were elected into office. The last point is that you give hope to those members of your party and other people who haven't been appointed, that they would all do their possible best, even on the fence, to assist you in achieving your policy directions and your vision, with the anticipation that it's possible that in reshuffle they may also be brought into government. This president has indicated that he's not interested in any reshuffle. That for me is catastrophic, and I couldn't have agreed with Dr. Sapon less, and I think that he got the point, very clear. But when he also said that yes, President Nanado admitted that we are in crisis, and that I didn't acknowledge that. As a development planner, I don't go finding solutions to problems without identifying what those problems are. What planners we do, we identify the problems. And I tell people that myself and the majority leader, Honorable Muntaka, are the planners in Parliament. The only difference is that me and majority leader are also former spare parts dealers. Now, what we do is that we identify problems before we find solutions. The question was the speech delivered by the president. So I looked at some of the inaccuracies put out there by the president. Mind you, the credibility of any speech to a very large extent hinges on how sincere that speech was. Now, if you have the opportunity to address us and chain out falsehood, clearly, even the promises you are making in those, in the speech cannot be attained. But you see, we'll look at some of the indicators. And I can tell you, if we take one after the other, the actions of these governments are very clear that they can't achieve them. Now, he says that, the president still has more than 2.5 years. Was that not what my brother said? And therefore, he can salvage the situation. The president in the speech says that we can only get out of this mess, this self-inflicted mess, in 2028. So that argument of 2 years, don't even go there, because the president himself is saying that we can get out of this mess in 2028. Now, in the eyes of all these challenges, let's assess the conduct, the lifestyle of the president and his appointees.
You think that did not even do enough good to the statement that he made that we are all in this together?
Alfred, you tell me that I should tighten my belt. And I look at you, you don't even have belt hooks. You think I'll tighten my belt? There must be some demonstration by those who lead. Now, when the president said that, we cut 30% of salary, yet we increase allowances of appointees and yourself. When we say is that let's live according to our means, yet you increase the number of people who work under the presidency. It simply doesn't make sense. So people would want to see you lead by example, that these are the things we want to do. We want to reduce ABCD. You are not reducing them, yet you are asking the people of this country who are the hardest hit. In fact, NADMO, and when we come to our attack that, NADMO still supplies victims, flood victims, with imported rice. Imported rice. We use our money, we have the choice to buy. Yet what we buy is imported rice. And I was on a program with NADMO PR, and he admitted, yes, the rice they distribute are imported. You know why? It's corruption. Someone is supplying them with that imported rice, and that person must always supply. When we have glut, and he knows, go to Avnash, they have a lot of rice that the state is unwilling to buy, and that rice can compete with any rice imported anywhere. So the problems we have are self-inflicted. So don't attribute them to just COVID and Ukraine. And I admitted that, yes, COVID and Ukraine would have an impact or effect on every country. But why is it that we are more affected than others? Prior to COVID, our economy was doing better than those countries because We were still in the IMF program. The IMF, you said you will never go, that you will never take us to IMF. Now you have the same person, and Ghanaians have a popular proverb. And that popular proverb is that you don't remove thorns whilst in the middle of thorns. You are saying that the man should finish with that negotiation. I can tell you that it's a trick. You listened to the man's interview yesterday. Your radio station interviewed me.
Yes.
And the man is justifying, giving justification why he must not go.
He said he's gone through all the pain
And the president never, Alfred,
and the aches.
Alfred,
as
the
a finance
president never
minister.
said. The president never said that he was going to heed to the call of the 80 members of parliament. He said that I'll only give it attention after he finishes ABCD. Now, what the president is simply doing, by the time they present the budget November, they are now, in fact, there are signs that they will even postpone the budget. So after December, we'll go on recess. So next year, and listen to the Minister of Finance himself with that spirited defense. Clearly, the president is not going to sack him. Clearly, he's not going anywhere. And these problems will continue unabated.
Well,
the only solution is to get these people out of office.
So we'll see how the vote of censure plays out. But when I spoke
And we will go with them. Alfred, the reason why I didn't want to comment, the reason why I didn't want, you see, the standing orders are very clear. Once the motion is accepted, mind you, they fought even the motion. Once the motion is accepted, it takes 1 week for it to be published in the other paper. And then 2 weeks, that is on the day of receipt, the thank God that the speaker accepted the motion. And within a week, I think that by next week, by Tuesday, it would have been published. It becomes an official position or business to be handled by Parliament. And a week after, because the day it was received, up to which is 2 weeks per the standing orders, we'll get into the debate. We are very convinced. We are very convinced that we'll get the numbers because
you get the 46 NPP
I have spoken. In fact, we've gotten all the 136 signatories from the NDC. So, and we need 2/3. Now we have over 80 members. If you add 80 to 136, you are getting about 200 plus. I have spoken with some of the MPP members of Parliament who said, look, we were not party to the decision taken by the leadership before they issued that statement. They were called to the Flagstaff House, and it was the leadership. When they came, they issued that statement. The vote is going to be through a secret ballot.
Indeed.
We are very convinced that we'll get this man out. What we are doing is not just about MPP NDC, salvaging the economy of this country.
So you need
and I've listened to quite a number of commentators mislead the public. A vote of censure,
it doesn't
when passed, it's not automatic.
No, we agree.
You said
It's not automatic.
No, we agree. Nobody said it's
The
automatic.
minister may resign.
The president
may.
And the president may decide to.
And so, but we will do what we are supposed to do.
Hold on. But you shouldn't create the impression out there that as soon as Parliament votes by 2/3 to censure a minister, that's the end of the matter.
That's not what we're saying. That's not what we say.
That is not it. It is one step that will go after the other. And I want that education to go to the public because it's a constitutional mandate.
Nobody said he's going automatically.
Yes,
but you see,
but the impression is created that when you censure him, he goes automatically.
Once that action is taken,
it is the person's personal decision that on the basis of what Parliament has done, by voting 2/3 against me, I think that at this stage I'll step aside. Or the president says, on the basis of what president has done, I am deciding that you should step aside. Otherwise, it is not automatic.
Alfred,
that immediately it is done, then the person goes.
The position where nobody.
We shouldn't mislead the public. No, we are educating the public.
Nobody said he's going automatically.
Because you see,
hold on. Yeah, I think you made the point.
Nobody said he's going.
When he's speaking,
No.
So that's why I don't want you to also interject.
What I'm saying is that that is not the position, and that's why I'm interjecting. What we are simply saying is that once we succeed in doing what we are supposed to do, everybody will be looking up to the government. So it will no longer be an NDC members who are calling for the minister to go, because we can only get that 2/3 if we get the buy-in of our colleagues from the MPP.
Indeed.
Now, if we succeed in getting this, it will be untenable for the president not to agree with us.
Well, so take a look at the man whom you have moved this motion against. That's the finance minister. This is the first time in the last 2 weeks, there are people who wonder how he survived the 2 weeks, that he's speaking publicly. He was addressing the Association of Ghana Industries, AGI, and some other members of the business community. Take a look.
Finance minister who has gone through all the pains and aches, and nobody can really come and say you don't understand what we are doing. The question is, what resources do we have and how we're going to deploy them in the nation. That you have a finance minister who has gone through all the pains and aches, and nobody can really come and say you don't understand what we are doing. The question is, what resources do we have, and how are we going to deploy them in the nation that we have, and how do you stand firm in very difficult circumstances, but being very confident that the nation is purposed for greatness, and you are blessed to have the opportunity to lead where we are going. So thanks, Mr. President, for the encouragement. And let me assure you all that your best bet is still Ghana. We can do it, and we should do it. In also impact of the depreciation of the cedi and albatross around the necks of our local businesses, and the cost of living for all citizens. The question is, what do you put to really mitigate the effect on our people? And that is the challenge that we have. So the Bank of Ghana, of course, is getting more activist in that, so that at least we can remove the speculative aspects of it and deal with what the real depreciation is. And we'll do it. We are confident that we'll see a much more stable currency even by the end of this year.
That's the finance minister saying that he's gone through all the aches and pains within this past 2 weeks and what's been happening. And there's no clear indication, Honorable you're saying, that the president is actually going to act on the demands of the majority caucus in parliament. Because Osachi Mensah Bonsu says that now it's not just the over 80 MPs who address the press. Now it is the position of the majority caucus in parliament that Kenneth Friata must be sacked. And is that enough basis for you to believe that 46 of them would actually give you the support in a secret ballot or secret voting, I beg your pardon, in parliament for this motion to censure the finance minister to go through? Especially because we're hearing now there are some businessmen who try to talk them out of it. I'm sure the minority should be taking interest in if indeed there was this businessman who came and tried to give the money.
So I listened to Honorable Andy Appiah-Kubi, and he addressed the press conference of the MPP members of parliament calling for the removal of the Minister for Finance. And he said, yes, a businessman met them. And I think it was on Joy.
Are you concerned about that?
Yes, they asked him, who is that businessman?
Unraveling the identity of this businessman.
I mean, that for me is shocking. That you have a businessman. What is the businessman's interest? What is that businessman's interest? That he comes to parliament to meet members of parliament who are taking legitimate positions for and on behalf of their constituents. Mind you, those members of parliament didn't hold a press conference making the demands if their constituents never agreed with them. Because I haven't heard any constituency that says that we disagreed with our MP for participating in that press conference and taking the decision they have taken. Yet you have a businessman who perhaps, because of his greed and business parochial interests, see the need to do that. Did someone ask that businessman to negotiate on behalf of the minister, or he took it upon himself to do what he did? I think that the serious fraud office, or even the special prosecutor, should be interested in this, because the minister is not only accused for mishandling and mismanaging the affairs of the economy of this country, he is also accused for violating laws governing financial transactions and businesses in this country. He is accused for dipping his hands into monies that he has no right to do so for the purposes of enhancing the president's personal cathedral. So I'm saying that these issues are issues that the special prosecutor should be particularly interested in. More so when the leader of this group admitted that the businessman met them. What was the intention of that businessman? Who sent him? What discussions went in there? And again, to the last vexed question, did he give them money? You know, as is being alleged, well, even though the person denied. No, but we need to know.
They didn't take the money.
Investigation would establish all of these things.
Who has to investigate this?
I'm saying that the special prosecutor should be interested in this. Because it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable that such things are going on. And it brings all of us as members of parliament, our names to disrepute. It is not just about those who, and particularly the MPP members of parliament. Because if I were an MPP member of parliament, I'll be particularly concerned about this meeting, because I believe that not all of them were in that meeting. And I don't also think that the entire members, the 80 members or more who are signatories to this, participated in the meeting. Who invited him? How did he get to parliament? Was he doing it just as a sole ranger, or was he doing it on behalf of the Minister for Finance? Did the minister send him? That for me is also an attack on our legislative arm, because people are always demanding us to be independent in taking decisions. Yet you have businessmen who can get in that thing.
Just a small point. A small point.
Yes.
You see, again, one of the fundamental things in law is that before you condemn a man, listen to him. It's so fundamental that even if the man indeed committed an act, but you don't give him the opportunity to be heard, or the Outram pattern rule of natural justice, you don't give the person an opportunity to be heard. Whatever decision you take, if he takes it to court and challenges your decision, it will be set aside. Not because the person is not guilty of that act you allege, but because you did not give the person a hearing. It is so basic and fundamental that it owes its primary source from the Bible itself. You know, that because, you know, before God passed judgment on Adam and Eve and the serpent, he actually asked them whether they have eaten of the fruit for which he forbade them from eating. And when the answers were provided by the man, and he said that he was being misled by the woman, God asked the woman why, and the woman said she was being misled by the serpent. And before God passed judgment, and then prescribed whatever each of them was supposed to suffer. So I'm saying this because, again, the finance minister, especially the aspects of it that the Honorable Mustala is talking about, the issues of infractions in our statutes and etc. by his actions and inactions and conduct, he will have to come to Parliament and be given a hearing by these people so that he can explain himself to justify why some of those actions have been taken and why those ones are not a clear breach of statute. They will hear him and decide whether or not what he's saying is in sync with reality or not, and before they pass the vote on him. Again, that step is very necessary. But looking at the aspect of it about the businessman, I think that it is one aspect. It is one aspect that I think the Honorable Mustala, for this morning, I will agree with him largely that we need to go into the nitty-gritties, because if the purpose of the businessman, his sole purpose was to influence members of parliament to act in manners that would be against their conscience by maybe financial consideration and etc., that would be improper. Well, that would be unlawful, and it will not be accepted by anybody. And I know that by what I know of His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Ghana, who stands for the rule of law and etc., such a conduct, if it comes up and it is established clearly, then the law will be allowed to take its course. And remember that in the recent past, we have the history, and you have rightly pointed out that the Office of the Special Prosecutor can be invited to start looking at the matter. I don't have a problem with it. It is for the purposes of establishing credibility amongst members of parliament and in our population. Because remember that recently, when one of the MCEs was appointed in Ashanti region, and he purported to have given some money to assemblymen to vote for him as a matter of enticing them to confirm him, etc. The matter is currently being prosecuted at a high court in Kumasi, and witnesses have been called. The case is ongoing. So, I mean, this is similar to that. So if the MPs who did it can come out with the details or particulars and provide it to the special prosecutor, actions can be initiated.
I see. But and I'm going to go to Dr. Smart Sapong a bit. Now, but beyond all what the NDC MPs have said and what the president has said, I mean, you're a former member of parliament. You still go to your constituency.
You're still paying school fees.
You are still paying school fees.
Yes.
People still depend on you for naming
when
ceremony and all of those things. Absolutely.
I buy fertilizer.
So you know and you feel the impact of the state of affairs now.
I do.
So is there any real justification for some of the things
Well,
that
I was just saying
some
that
of the things you are defending now?
Before I was just telling you off air. I was telling the Honorable Mutala that at least those of us on this table, the two of you, at the end of the month, you have some salary. I don't have salary.
So you admit to the realities. So
yes, I face the realities every day. I buy fuel.
So is
I buy
there any
fuel,
justification for some of these things
I
that you are
do
defending now?
But the point is that what I'm talking about is that, you see, the economic difficulties that we face, it is, in fact, it will be disingenuous for anybody to tell us today that there are no challenges. And in fact, the person will be met with the fury of the people to say that there are no challenges. In fact, if I sit here and I declare that there are no challenges and everything is rosy, when I get to my house, my own family will not be happy with me. It is very clear, it is obvious that there are challenges. But it is when there are challenges that leadership is called to question, to resolve the challenges and then restore hope and bring the economy. And remember the president's famous quote, that we know how to bring the economy back to life, but we do not know how to bring people back to life. It is one point that the president said that all the time, it guides me whatever I do. Look, I have not created the impression, and I will not attempt to create the impression that everything is rosy, because I feel it every day when I go to buy. I recall just last night, I sent for some basic commodities for children in the house. And one of them told me, who went to buy, came to tell me that the small bottle of what drink was the Vita milk is 9 cedis. I couldn't believe it. He said malt, the small bottle, plastic, 7 cedis. I mean, that was what he. In fact, I wanted to suspect the one who went to buy of cheating, but he convinced me. So what I'm saying is that we are facing the realities, but leadership is being provided to navigate us out of the situation, and that is why the president has outlined his 12 points. You may say that the 12 points are not robust enough. It is your personal view, and etc. But he who is in charge of affairs says that those 12 points, when well implemented, which he will do, will navigate us out. And you see, I'm sure we will get there.
Precisely.
We'll
So you see, and I just wanted you to now come to the point of the realities the Ghanaian people face, so that when the Ghanaian people are talking about their realities, it will not be presumed or seem to be talking negativity and then also sending the wrong signals to the market. So now you admit that the realities are biting, they are devastating, and it is a crisis situation. You don't expect that we say otherwise. So that's just what I just wanted us to come to terms with now. But Dr. Smasapong, beyond what the president has said, does his actions complement, and that's what the Honorable Mohammed was talking about earlier, some of the things that the president had done and some of the things he failed to do even when the crisis was beckoning and we're all seeing it. And now he's made this speech. Does his actions correspond to engender the confidence that he's expecting from the Ghanaian people? If you could unmute for me.
Sure. Sorry about that. Yeah, a quick bite on the discussions of the honorable men in the studio. One is with the natural justice concept that the honorable cited, that at all points in time, the accused would have to be given fair hearing before judgment is passed. I think the snake was not given fair hearing in my view. And I don't know what it means. This is biblical. Perhaps what it means is that it gets to a point in time that perhaps judgment can be passed without. I'm not saying that should be the case. I believe in the natural justice situation, only that there's a continuation of the narration the honorable member gave, which has got to do with the serpent who was denied fair hearing. Maybe the family of the serpent can take that matter up and seek justice.
The snake was hit.
The snake was hit.
The snake admitted.
Then with the substitution bit that we are trying to use the football scenario to explain. You see, Ronaldo is a very good player. Lionel Messi is a very good player. But sometimes in one match, they get a very good day. They play their hearts out. People applaud them. And it so happens that that excellent player may, in another match, not have a good day. So Ken Oforiatta in the first 4 years perhaps did his best, was fantastic. And I agree with the honorable member that people were not calling for his head in the first, but none of the ministers were asked to step aside, or this heat came on them in the first step. Agreed. That is the instance of an excellent player having a good day. But when the excellent player, be it Lionel Messi or whoever, is having a bad day, and you substitute the person, it doesn't mean anything. If you fight and run, you live to fight another day. But to feel you are so strong, you're having a bad day, day by day, month by month, the work you are supposed to do is seen degenerating. For how long should we be suffocated if your substitution may bring some level of inspiration? And that is also debatable. Somebody may say, what is the guarantee that when we substitute, another person comes, it will restore the confidence and bring whatever. But before we knowing what the next person brings on board, what we know currently is that the one who is in charge of the activities is not giving good account day by day of the reason why he's in the office. We are lamenting. Yeah, those to fix the problem are lamenting. I'm lamenting. The honorable member in the studio is also lamenting. Like, that is not what we need. We need some solutions, and it should be seen at least, if not day by day, some week by week. So it's been about getting to a week since the president spoke. And I mean, check the figures. Fuel has jumped within that same period to another level we can't talk about this morning. The dollar is not doing anything better. He pleaded with the traders to tone down the hikes of the prices. And it was, in my view, a mere plea. Nothing has changed much on the markets if you visit the market this morning. So let us not all join in the lamentation. There should be people who must take complete responsibility and put timelines to the assurances they give us and ensure that such timelines are adhered to. So that is what we are talking about. Nobody will gain in the exit of finance minister. I don't think the Ghanaian will be happy that, just so happy that the finance minister is not. That's not it. If he is actually giving us some results over the period we are all lamenting, I'm sure the narrative will change. But to say, let's hope, let's see if by the next 30 minutes or the next 2 months or the next 3 months he regains his strength, blah, blah, blah. We should as well think about what might have happened to the weaker ones within these 3 months or so we are talking about. So I'll just rest my case on that.
Okay.
I think yeah.
Right, you're still live here on Key
Okay.
Point. Also live on
Yes.
3. Yes, Dr. Smasapong.
Yeah, you can go.
Great. We're live on 3FM 92.7 as well. Now, we're going to cross over to the demonstration grounds, the Kumipeku Reloaded demonstration. They are asking for 3 things: that the president, the vice, and Ken Oforiatta should step aside. They should resign. And then also the speaker takes over, institutes certain measures to address the economic situation urgently. That's beyond what the president talked about on Sunday. My colleague Roland Walker is at the Kwame Nkrumah interchange or Brassport area, where there's the converging point of the Kumipeku Reloaded demonstration. He's joining us now. Roland, tell us exactly what's happening where you are. Ro.
Currently, I can tell you that the demonstration has started in earnest. And so, I started as related. Let me just take you around and give you some sneak peek of activities that are ongoing. And it just shows you I'm currently just the interchange we have. That is the Kwame Nkrumah interchange. Now, if you go forward, you see that it's a beehive of activities as you come by. Just let me zoom in and get onto the demonstration ground. And it's where we have a number of these demonstrators circulating
Right.
as fast as we can.
Right.
And
We would reconnect.
If you move forward, you want to get find a lot of people who have gathered here this morning. Just make sure you also make sure to spell. A number of them, I can say that tens of people have already gathered. And so far, this is the beginning point. A lot of people get off making sure that apart from the fact of people here, and another thing that we have done, what about what happened in the war? What part of the people who have gathered here?
Well, just quick. That's the scene of what's happening there. Stay with us here on your election command center. Also across all media journal platforms on 3FM 92.7, also Unia 95.1, and Unia TV Connect FM as well in Takrady and beyond. We have Akuma FM in Kumasi and beyond. Also on 3news.com. We'll bring you all the live updates, and we'll cross over as we go on as well to the demonstration grounds. But Honorable Murtala Mohammed, and we'll run through the 12. These the 12 measures that the president put out on Sunday, which he says is going to be reviewed in the next 6 months, and it's going to be on the screen right now. The first that the president talked about was restoring macroeconomic stability. And if you check the NPP manifesto as well, that was one of the, in fact, there was the first objective or the promise in that manifesto, the 2020 manifesto as well. So that is what the president reiterated. Also talked about the attempt to now get cheaper alternative sources of fuel because of what's happening on the market. Look, fuel prices shot up an all-time high this week, which also led to transport fares going up by between 25 to 30% in many, many places where the drivers now have taken it on their own to increase fares arbitrarily. They say they are not waiting for the transport ministry and any negotiation with the GPRTU. Diesel, which a lot of these public transport vehicles run on, is selling almost 24 cedis per liter, and petrol a little over 17 Ghana cedis. What you see there is first, one, restore macroeconomic stability through an IMF-supported program. The emphasis on the IMF-supported program. Two, encourage traders to tone down profiteering, which is contributing to inflationary pressures. Yes. Three, improve national resources and liquidity by raising revenues from 13 to 18 to 20% of GDP. Four, energy sector reforms to reduce the risk of the sector to the budget. Five, continue with efforts to reduce central government expenditure through the budget cuts of 30%. Six, tackle the cost of living by working to stabilize prices of petroleum products through new supply arrangements. And we understand within the week that there's already a team in Abu Dhabi trying to engage so as to get cheaper fuel. It raises a lot of questions as to how that is being done, how feasible this arrangement is, what are we giving in exchange for this so-called cheaper fuel, and also the issues of transportation. In fact, the industry players have been raising questions about this arrangement. Seven, restore debt sustainability by reducing debt to GDP ratio to 55% by 2028. 8, pursue inclusive growth while protecting the poor. 9, reduce budget rigidities by capping statutory funds. 10, start the process of discouraging the importation of rice. And Murtala, you talked about rice, poultry, vegetable oil, fruit juice, etc. and then also 11, that's, I beg your pardon, there's tackle currency speculation to limit volatilities to the city and ensure no haircuts to treasury bill holders in the debt restructuring strategy. Yes, these are the 12 measures. Honorable Muntala.
Well, first and foremost, once again, what you've just read, and I guess a lot of your viewing public would understand the trick that this government is trying to pull on us. By the way, the solutions that may come are solutions certainly that cannot be provided by this government. And it is important to state that some of the things the president said, in fact, all the things the president said, all communicators of the MPP, including his spokesperson, the Minister for Information, when people were interviewed, when they were interviewed to give meaning to the skeletal presentation the president made, you know what their response have always been? That the detail of it will be captured in the budget for 2023. That for me is extremely insulting. And I was flabbergasted that the Minister for Information himself, who should be speaking for the president, who by now should be telling us the detail of what the president said, is telling us that the detail will be provided during the budget. What it simply means is that, once again, the president and the entire government is tricking us and have described their actions as, at best, cartoon scenario reality, because that is what they do. Assuming that other communicators are not able to tell us the detail of the president presentation, why should the Minister for Information also say that the detail will be found space or spaces in the financial statement, the budget that is yet to be presented? Because you address the nation to give us hope. And mind you, before the president addressed us, they went for a retreat at Pejuasi, and the president should be giving us hope. Of course, the president may not be able to give us all the details in that presentation, but the expectation is that after that, his minister or ministers, particularly Minister for Information, should be giving us detailed information about what the president meant. Now, again, the president is saying that we can only get out of these self-inflicted challenges created by our inept, our incompetence, and outright thievery in this government, can't be found only in 2028. The list said, and if I can just touch them, just restoring the macroeconomic stability. The macroeconomic stability is in tatters. Frankly speaking, with the actions of this government, it can be restored now. Albert Einstein once said that the significant problems that confront us can never be solved with the thinking we had when we created them. And there's also saying that coming events, they say, cast their shadows. Clearly, all the actions, the interventions taken by this government do not point to a solution to the maintaining or ensuring macro stability in this country. He said that cheaper alternative sources of energy. And we have been told that some Ghanaians are in the Emirates, Abu Dhabi. But what we are not being told are what are the terms of any negotiation they are going to have. The transparent and accountable governance expect us to know, particularly when you journalists ask the ministers in charge to give us further and better particulars.
The same, the coming days we'll get the details.
Absolutely.
No, it's not.
Absolutely.
It's not absolutely.
Yes.
You are not taking that decisions for NPP as a political party. You are taking the decisions for and on behalf of the people of this country. The
What
least
we are
you can
giving
do,
in return.
The least you can do even to provide that information to their representatives. Parliament is
But
the...
that will be done.
Please, no,
Honorable
no.
Mutala,
You
when
have...
they-
Oh, can I...
No,
Can
Those
I
are preliminary.
okay.
That will be done.
I thought you just...
So you would have expected that.
I thought you
You
told me
would
a while
have
ago
expected
that...
that
I'm saying that
before any advancing goes.
You don't tell
Parliament
us that
would
that
have-
will be done. You have presented, it means that they started working on this not today. The president had his speech less than 4 days, or within a week we are told that there is a delegation out there. It means that this decision was not just taken after the speech of the president. And we are not told. The Abu Dhabis and the Emiratis are not like NPP government. They are very smart people. They take decisions that are beneficial to their citizens. And before they take such decisions, their citizens are involved. However they are involved is another matter. We ought to know. Assuming you tell me that that will be done. People are demanding questions. And you know that as one of the important ingredients of transparency and accountable governance is to be opened to the people who want to know, and then you tell us that will be done. There's another issue when people ask the sports, Minister for Youth and Sports. Your sports journalists have actually asked the minister the budget for the World Cup. And the minister says that we'll give you the detailed information after the World Cup. So assuming that what you are saying that will be done after the 10, and the conditions are that 3 Ghanaians are going to be slaughtered every day for us to get the oil. I'm just giving an example. Or the conditions are that they are going to take care of our gold, just as the bauxite have been sold to the Chinese, which Ghanaians will not accept. So I'm saying that people need to know. We need to know what terms, at what terms. Give us some information. Then you tell us that no, that information will be provided. Now, again, he said that reduce central government expenditure. I mean, this is a joke.
Why?
The actions of this government every day points to the other. You have presidential staffers at the Flagstaff House who live in state bungalows, drive Land Cruisers. They don't even have police officers providing the security. Military. You go to the Flagstaff House, you have young men and women who are provided with the most sophisticated laptops. You know their job. Monitor social media handle. Anybody who legitimately criticizes government, go at that person. And they are paid 15,000 Ghana cedis a month.
That's something you verified?
Oh, that's a fact. Let them come and deny. So you are creating all manner of secretariat. Look, that's what President Muhammad said in his speech. You have free SHS secretariat. Is it so difficult that the Ministry of Education cannot handle? 1D1F secretariat. Is it not something the Ministry of Trade can handle? You know, you create all manner of... So your actions are not pointing to that. Let people see you demonstrating your willingness and preparedness, at least to sacrifice a little. You can't tell us to sacrifice when your actions indeed are a demonstration of lavish living. The president talked about that, start the process of discouraging the importation of rice. When I heard the president, honestly, I didn't know whether I should laugh or I should cry. And I'll give you the statistics. It takes visionary leaders to do this. This government doesn't have a vision, or even if they have, it's blur.
You can't see clearly.
Why? In 2014-2015 fiscal year, we succeeded in reducing the importation of rice into this country by 40%. And there was a surge in the production of local rice by 60%, a direct correlation. It means that the actions taken by government yielded the results. We could not have achieved that without some vision of President Mahama. And in fact, President Mahama didn't stop there. WHO, because we are where we are with regards to the city because of we are hugely import dependent. Is that not the case? Mm-hmm. President Mahama haven't realized that our pharmaceutical companies and the products, the things they produce, compete with any product anywhere in the world. In fact, by the WHO. The only challenge they had at the time was resources to expand, to be able to produce, to even feed the domestic market, less even export within the sub-region. President Mahama, visionary as he is, he gave the direct financial assistance to these companies. Some of them expanded and increased the number of production. When we were establishing the Commander Sugar Factory, a Commander Sugar Factory which was established with all equipments, they are lying to Ghanaians that it is going to start. And I challenge this minister and this government to tell us one spanner, one note they have added into the factory. The factory, everything was available. You know why?
Done retooling and
they did nothing. What they did, for a fact, what they did, our committee visited, what they did was they painted and changed some roof. I'm saying that the equipments were all there. We went in for a loan. They decided that they were not going to give that attention. And what President Mahama said was that, look, the sugar that was supposed to be produced by this factory could not take care of our sugar needs. But at least, these monies were given to these pharmaceutical companies. And they spend a lot of the money in importing sugar for the purposes of the products they produce. Even if the Commander Sugar Factory is to supply just the pharmaceutical companies, it means that we give them money, they use the money to buy sugar produced in Ghana, the money remains here. This is what we call vision. Now, how come that we succeeded in doing this? And in fact, by 2016, even up to the date the president delivered that plagiarized speech, 7th January 2017, we were spending $500 million in the importation of rice and poultry products into this country. This is how much we were spending. Now, this government, within that time, from that time up to date, they are spending over $2 billion in the importation of rice into this country. and poultry product. $2 billion. Now we have gone in for a syndicated loan of $1.3 billion. If we were to follow the vision, the steps put by President Mahama, and for which reason we maintained the $500 million, we would have been saving this country almost $2 billion. That is what we would have been saving this country. We wouldn't have been struggling to look for this money to import goods that we have the capacity. Look, every day I sit here and anywhere I'll state it. You have Avnash in Tamale and other rice milling companies in the northern part of the country, some in Volta region. They have stockpiled of rice, this paddy rice, that are also perfume, compete with any rice anywhere. The government is not interested in buying the rice. Honorable Tanko, our former MP for Yaba, he knows. He's a huge rice farmer. Honorable Akando, there are several other, Magoyongo, several other members of parliament, including Honorable Inusa Fuseni. He's also engaged in the production of rice in huge quantities. This government is unwilling to buy the rice. Even with NADMO, they buy imported rice to give to flood victims. It simply doesn't make sense. So if you tell me that these are the steps we are taking, yet every action you take is contrary to what you preach to the people of this country, you think I'll take you serious? Look, if we're going to be awarding presidents for talking sweet, President Mahama would have been the president, President Nanado would have been the president of the world. He speaks sweet. I mean, in one way, it's sugar-coated words. You know, I don't know whether it's good English.
You don't see any merit or action in what he said?
Your statement, the merit of your statement should be demonstrated in your actions. How can you do this? And you know the reason why we are spending now over $2 billion. There was a ban in the importation of rice into this country. I've had this engagement with you, and you have also even done your checks. That ban was imposed by Honorable Haruna Idrisu when he was the Minister for Trade.
Yes.
The ban was not imposed out of nothing. Now, when Honorable Haruna Idrisu was moved from Minister of Trade, and I remember we were moved from information to trade, these small rice importers who bring in rice into this country every day, they petitioned. When they petitioned, what government we did simply was, look, let's set up a committee. They petitioned, the big rice importers also petitioned. When I set up the committee, I deliberately made a leading member of NPP to lead the committee, Mr. Kofi Kapito, who is unbridled and unrepentant member of NPP. He has never hidden it. Because he was the consumer.
Yes, he was the consumer protection
when they
agency.
Yes, including journalists, including your media house. When they came back, the report was that we should maintain the ban. We never had anything against the small rice importers. We maintained the ban. This government lifted that ban. And there's a
you're a member of the Trade Committee
Yes.
of Parliament. What was the reason given for this government lifting
It
the
was
ban?
political. They claimed they financed their campaign.
Did you question that?
I have been questioning this.
And what was the response
in
given to you?
fact, I filed a question on the floor of Parliament to this Minister of Trade.
And what was the answer
And the
given?
Minister of Trade, when he came, he was being condescending, he was being evasive. Tell us why you lifted the ban. He couldn't even tell a straight. He couldn't even give straightforward answer as to why they lifted the ban. And the question I ask is, why would you do this to this country? Another issue. And I remember we did and left a paper. This bonded warehousing, another robbery of this state. You know, the bonded warehouse system is, people bring in goods, they don't pay the duties, they keep the duties in the bonded warehouses, so they pay the duties as and when the goods are sold. Now, my shocker was when we investigated, and then I was the Deputy Minister for Trade. We identified that some of them, perishable product, they say, oh, it has been in the warehouse for 3 years, 2 years. It's not just possible. So the position we took, and I remember that I edited the report, was that we should streamline the number of bonded warehouses we have in this country. Under this government, we have created hundreds of bonded warehouses, even in Accra alone. Streamline them or put CCTV cameras so that people don't exploit the nation. And that explains why we are not able to generate the needed revenue. To conclude, 1D, 1F. Look, it is one policy. When the NDC comes to power, we should just throw it somewhere.
Why?
You see,
one district, one factory.
I'll tell you why it is nothing but a slogan. It would have been a wonderful policy intervention by any government. It would have been the best because once you industrialize, you grow the economy, you create more jobs. Now, what we did, and remember, President Nana, then candidate Nanado spoke.
Why will you throw it away?
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you. You said, I'll tell you why. I'm saying that the nature it is now. President Nanado first spoke on 1D, 1F when he was in Western Region. And remember, that was the very time President Mahama commissioned the Commander Sugar Factory. So when he said he would provide every district with a factory, the understanding of everybody in this country was the factory such as the Commander Sugar Factory. And you remember we said it wasn't possible. And true to our position is true. So everybody thought that he was going to create the factory such as Commander. And I remember on a program with an MPP communicator, he said, yes, we can produce the Commander Sugar Factory lights in every district. Now, what the president is doing instead is denying this country of the needed revenue. Once you are accepted to come on 1D1F, you are given tax exemption for 5 years. Right. Now, in Parliament, before we rose, this government gave tax exemptions to 2 companies, 2. And it was over $11 million. On the floor, it was a heated argument between myself and other colleagues. And in fact, my uncle, Honorable Yusuf Foboli, because we said the 1D1F policy is that for you to even get such exemption, provide the jobs you have created. That was not provided. Tax exemption for over $11 million, that $11 million could have taken care of the cost of free SHS. You haven't done this. Your actions are all pointing because you agreed to come on 1D1F to satisfy the uncontrollable ego of this government. You are free to go. How come that you are creating so-called factories, yet unemployment is increasing? In 2006, and I'm concluding on this, unemployment rate in this country was 6.8. In 2016, you described President Mahama as incompetent, all manner of names, berated him. 6.8. Today, unemployment in this country is 17.4, and that figure, we believe, is even cooked. How more incompetent is this government that they don't want us to talk about?
Joseph Kwenka, so the point is about, yes, the 12 outlined specific measures in place to ensure that this is achieved, because the president says in 6 months that he would come back, or he'll be coming to our homes every now and then. But I've been interacting with some poultry farmers, for instance, who say that almost 95% of the industry or the broilers that we produce or we consume in this country is imported. That poultry industry is on the brink of collapse. One egg is now sold for a little over 3 cedis in some places. We put money in Dako farms under the 1D1F project, but there was no systematic approach to banning, at least reducing the amount of imports, poultry, into the country. So what's the plan to achieve this?
The point is, first of all, if you look at the 12th point, the last one, it answers what you are saying.
What is that?
Because the president indicated about the attempt to reduce importation of rice, etc. All those ones are part of it. But
what are the specific measures?
What
exactly is going to be done?
I would answer you. But let me start by indicating from the very onset that my brother put out some inaccuracies and made some assumptions and excuse me to say, false conclusions as a result of premises that he took off from. And I'll point out that. Now, talking about the issue of cheaper sources of fuel, first of all, when you asked him, I have not heard him say whether or not that is a good policy. All he said is that what they are doing is not having parliamentary approval.
No, I haven't said that.
But I have not heard you.
No, I haven't said that.
I heard you very loud and clear.
No, I haven't
said I wanted to point out something. That
would you want me to stay on the path so that
because you don't want to? We don't want to hold on one.
Hold on to the point. Yes.
The point is that the indication, as you yourself put across, is that there is a team at the Emirati discussing with them a way of getting cheaper sources of fuel that will reduce the impact on the economy. And we know that one of the things creating all the distortions is a steep rise in petroleum products. That is the fundamental thing. In fact, when you touch petroleum products, you touch everything. So government then says that, look, on the basis of this, we are going to negotiate other cheaper sources of getting petroleum products so that our prices can come down at the pump and to be able to regulate, the economy in manners that things will trickle down to the ground. Remember that you go to the roadside and you are buying something from even a hawker, and they're talking about cost of transportation and etc. Because if you touch fuel, you touch everything. Therefore, government says, we're going to negotiate this and get cheaper sources of fuel. My brother is giving an indication in which I want to put in perspective. You see, when government intends to go into a contract, and it's been pronounced by the Supreme Court, if you look at Article 1815 of our Constitution, it is very clear that anything of an international nature that must be consummated in this country ought to be given parliamentary approval.
Indeed.
And the Supreme Court has made definite pronouncement on Balkan energy. Several other cases, very prominent cases that the Supreme Court has made definite pronouncement on this matter. So it's beyond debate. Any such arrangement with a foreign entity which does not have parliamentary approval is a nullity at best. And so when you engage preliminarily, you don't go to parliament to seek approval. It is when you have actually put the documents in place that you then bring to parliament to approve of it. When parliament refuses, you cannot consummate.
So let me understand
But you cannot enter into that contract with a foreign entity without parliamentary approval.
So
you do preliminary negotiation. And I'm going to give you a point before you come in.
Okay.
You see, I am a legal practitioner. I have my own chambers. And I work for one company, a very prominent company I respect so much. I wouldn't want to mention.
But you said you are not on salary. You just said you are not.
Yes, I'm not on salary. I'm a private person.
Yeah, but you are making
I'm not
money.
paid salary.
Okay.
You created the impression that you
Mutala, mischief ignored. we are doing a project with one of the East African countries. We are going to supply some items. Now, at the preliminary stages, we've been engaging the top management of that country. And they've been sending us correspondence, and we've been replying. Now, we've reached a stage where we are entering into an MOU. When we are done with that, then we would then enter into the contract itself. We will get it drafted. In fact, I'm drafting the contract. When we are done with it,
how much are you being?
We are going to present it to the government of the other country. And then the government will then send it to their parliament. And if the parliament approves of it, we sign. So that's the procedure. And my brother knows it very well. He's been a minister and all that. So there's no way government can enter into a contract with the Emirati authorities for cheaper importation of fuel without parliamentary approval. But this is the preliminary stages of engagement, except where government is only doing the negotiation and providing leadership for private sector, in which case the private sector will deal directly with the authorities and bring it, which may not need parliamentary approval. But if government itself is going to be part and parcel of it, which I anticipate in this particular case, because of the exceptional circumstances, government will indeed be part and parcel of it. Parliamentary approval will come, but it will only be triggered at the time that the consummation of the contract is about to take place. That is the answer I want to provide. And I think that is a key indicator, as I've said. If government follows it through and is able to secure cheaper sources of fuel, most of the problems that we are confronted with are going to be actually addressed. That's very important. The other one is, he talked about the importation of rice. Largely, I agree with some of the things he said about that. And I'm an objective person. When we cut the importation of rice and we encourage local rice production, and etc., we're going to have to retain a lot of foreign exchange. That is important. It is not in dispute at all. He's mentioned quite a number of places in Tamale. I know other places in Fumbisi.
Yeah.
I mean, in the Upper East region.
region.
And then, I mean, they are producing rice in larger quantities. We can retool and rechannel our energies to assist them in, even as part of this concept of planting for food and jobs.
Indeed.
We can do that and assist the local farmers to grow more so that we retain the foreign exchange here. Remember that the reason for the volatility of the cedi is because of our lack of export. In fact, we import a lot and we export a little, and so there's an imbalance. That is the primary reason for the fluctuation of the currency. So, one district, one factory, my brother said they were going to take it out. I thought that they were going to remodel it in a manner that would suit their interest.
I said the nature, hold on.
Yes,
I
because
said the nature it is. I said it should have been a very good policy.
The point
but
is
the way
that
you implement it, we will not do that.
The point is that if you look at our system now, the number of factories that have actually sprang up as a result of one district, one factory.
How many factories?
I mean, there are so many.
I would ask the question about how many.
I don't have specific figures.
How many jobs have you
And I don't want to speculate anything that will be misreported. I don't have figures. But the minister has stated time and again that several of them have been established across the country.
No, you didn't.
You know it for a fact. The minister has stated this before. It's even on the Hansard. It is on record.
No,
but so many of these factories are in operation.
Right.
Some of them are new and they start from scratch.
Which of them are-
Others are actually old ones that have been given some support, liquidity support, to revamp.
I'm sure-
These are not in debate. Now, if we think about fruit juice and we expand
Ekumfi.
Ekumfi, we expand it and have other branches in other parts of the country. And look, we seem to be trivializing things.
But you see,
I know countries where I have been to, and the people patronize their products 100%.
The president himself.
You serve it
He's
at
not patronizing
public
in
gatherings.
Ghana.
right.
Public gatherings, you serve fruit juice, locally made fruit juice, not imported ones. And then, the insatiable love and desire for foreign products. Look, you go to my village, the rice that is produced there is so nutritious.
Yeah, absolutely, I know.
We ignore it, and then we go and bring perfumed rice and to endanger our lives.
How about Nadmo buying?
And all that.
How about Nadmo buying?
If indeed
foreign
it's
rice?
true Natmo is buying foreign rice,
That's a
it
fact.
is unacceptable.
But
It's a fact. You see, as I indicated, in discussing these issues, we should put things in perspective. The president says we are looking for cheaper sources of fuel. Is it a good point? Is it a good point that we are looking for cheaper sources of fuel? Answer is that it is a good point. Is it a good point to cut importation of rice? Answer is that it is good. These are policies that are very good. What we should be talking about, Honorable Mutala and my good brother, is how to assist the president to implement these policies to reflect the reality and change the status quo.
Okay.
But not
Thank you.
condemn these very lofty ideas that can transform the economy.
We'll come to, but let's cross over to the demonstration grounds quickly.
finished.
And but gentlemen, thank you very much for coming through. That's Murtala Mohammed is a member of the Trades Committee of Parliament, and then also joining us in studio that's the Honorable Joseph Penka, he's a former Deputy Attorney General, and then also former member of Parliament.